in my lifetime as an adult, the 2 or 3 massive successes never seen before anywhere in the world I can think of. Telecommunications. When I was 18 or 20 years old, you needed to be either an MLA or an MP or know somebody. If not, you still had to wait 3 years or 5 years to get a landline. Right? Today, it's the cheapest, most widely penetrated telecom market in the world by far. Right? And that happened despite the corruption, despite the problems, despite the lack of infrastructure, despite all the other limitations that India has. Similarly, the commercial aviation industry, right? I mean, I flew down this afternoon just for the sake of attending this. I'm going to fly back 8 a.m. tomorrow. I think the ticket round trip cost me 7,800 or 8,000 rupees. That you cannot do this cheaper in any place in the world. You cannot on the last minute decide to fly and fly down on, whatever, 400 kilometer flight, 1 hour, 20-minute flight and fly back for roughly $105 or something. So clearly some things, and especially the things where the government kind of gets out of the way, or that don't require road infrastructure, water infrastructure and so forth, there have been massive improvements in one generation, more than other countries. This whole notion of leapfrogging, more than what other countries and civilizations have taken 200 years to do, we've done in 30 or 50 years. Right? And if you look at it from a evolution of a society perspective, and maybe I'll just end with these 2 comments. What India has gone through between 1950, let's say, and today is the equivalent of what in a place like London or America they would call kind of the first industrial revolution, then the second industrial revolution, the whole like steam, all this stuff the first time, then the machines and everything else, electricity, the transformation of the economy based on availability of telecommunications, then electronics, information technology, then globalization kind of transformation from manufacturing to services. So what, let's say, the UK has gone through in 200 years, India has gone through in 60 years, 65 years. And that's going to create a lot of opportunities. Clearly, there are hundreds of people who have become billionaires. Of course, in a rotten government, in a corrupt government, in a failed socialist model, then government arbitrage becomes the biggest way to create wealth. But there have also been people who have made wealth without that, in IT, in pure service, like a Infosys or like a Wipro, and then now try to transform themselves. You have the luxury of not needing even that level of infrastructure. If you have good ideas, can create good products or good scalable business models, you can avoid all of those limitations. And then maybe the last thing I'd say is, as my earlier speaker was saying, there's no better resource than people who have been there, done that. Right? I think as much as I encourage you to think outside the box, and as much as I encourage you to not adhere to all visions or limitations, it also helps a lot to have people who have been there, done that. In fact, from my time in finance and in the investment banking industry, I will tell you that at every level of investment, from angel investors to early stage funding to mezzanine to pre-IPO to private equity to IPO to bond markets to everywhere, 99% of financial investing happens based on people much more than it does on ideas or products or anything else. People invest in human beings. You can do all the pitches you want and all the things. At the end of the day, investing is a instinct business, because nobody knows. Put a dollar out, may or may not come back. Even if I buy a bond, I'm not sure it'll come back. Different bonds have different risks. So transfer of money or the investing of money is always an investment based on faith, and therefore it's based on people. And if you have been there, done that, it greatly increases the likelihood you get funded. Even if you've been there, done that, been successful, and then the next time they invest in you and you fail, they'll still be willing to take the chance on you third time compared to a guy who's never been there. In fact, Bill Gates famously at one point stop recruiting people from companies that had either only been successful or people who had never been in companies before. He said, I want people from failed startups, because only they know what it feels like to have their back to the wall and really know how to dig themselves out of a hole. I don't want these guys who have been lifelong, everything worked my way, I got really successful, big deal. So I think people is really the most important thing. And in that context, I just want to point out two people. My cousin, Dr. Vijay Rajan, who's here at the back, who has a PhD in computer science from the University of Minnesota, and who worked in the Bay Area for a while, and he and his friends did some startups and so forth. You know, he can be a good mentor to you. Unlike me, I'm a banker, trader, consultant, politician. He's a technical guy, so he can be a good resource for you. And then somebody I met, he knew me, but I didn't know him. But he was from Vikasa, Venkatesh Rajendra, right? Of the, I forget what his company is called. But in fact, I tried desperately to get him to come here instead of me today, or if not, then at least with me. But he's in Jakarta for some other business he bought. He made some money starting up and selling various companies, including one called Magster that does the magazine subscriptions. And so now he's invested in various businesses and he travels around taking care of those. But there are guys like him in Madurai. It was a pleasant surprise for me. I can't stress enough the value of having mentors like him look at your business plans, help you, with your team kind of mentorship and so forth. And so, when he's back, I'm sure some of you at least are in touch with him, but you should consider getting him into some kind of official capacity.